We're going to be taking a look at a Maytag MCT series cold water inlet valve failure, and I'll walk you through the process of troubleshooting that. Now, the symptoms for this particular washing machine was, if you set it for any of the cold water settings and any type of wash cycle, it would begin, you'd hear it click, the tub would begin to do its sensing, it would kind of spin a little bit, but no water would come out, which immediately you knew that was going to be a problem, because after some point, the sensor would return back to the control panel and saying there's no water coming in, and it would go into an error mode. Basically, you were done with that cycle. I didn't at that point try hot, which I should have. Just switch it to hot and see, does the hot inlet valve work? Once I had troubleshooted it to some degree, I found out that that was the easiest thing, is to just switch it to hot to see, is it the hot? Did the cold water inlet valve fail? But the hot water inlet valve was fine. And had I turned it to hot, I would have seen right away there was no problem. But that doesn't fix the machine, because this machine will rinse. The rinse cycle has to be cold water. So if you have no cold water coming in, you're still up a creek. It's going to wash the clothes, it will spin them, and then it will try to go into the rinse cycle and fail. So that was the symptoms of this particular failure. Now, as you begin your troubleshooting, you want to go ahead and remove this panel. It has a screw here. You can take this off, and then you can take off the various hex head screws that hold this unit on, and you can just take this piece off. That way you can get access to your inlet valves. It's helpful at this point if you have a voltmeter, so that you can actually monitor the voltage on these two input solenoids to see if they're functioning correctly when we try to do a cycle. Valve that controls the inlet water is twofold. It has a one input connector for the main water, and then it has two solenoids, a water inlet valve over here, and that drops water in the fabric softener side. So you would only use this valve on this side during the rinse cycle. This is the other valve that allows water to come into the detergent tray, and this will be on when you first begin your cycle. So this is the one that failed. This one may be fine. I didn't test the resistance of these two solenoids to see. But that's when you watch the video, you'll actually watch me come over here and test AC voltage, and there was none. Well, there shouldn't be. We're not into the rinse cycle yet. Over here was where the 120 volts is, and that's where it should be, and that indicates this solenoid should be engaged and allowing water to flow into the detergent tray and then down into the tub. Now, what I've done is I've brought in a digital voltmeter, and I've set it up on AC, so I'm going to actually measure AC voltage. And what I want to do is take my probes, and I want to put them into the connection. There's two electrical connections that go into the solenoid. So if I pull these off, you'll see it. These two electrical connections come from the circuit board, and they go into these two terminals. And these solenoids open up the valve to allow cold water in. So I want to check and make sure that when I initiate a cold water cycle, I should get 115, 120 volts at these terminals, which should, from the circuit board to the solenoid, saying turn on. Go ahead and open this cold water. So I've got my cold water setup, water temperature, cold water, just a basic setup, just a normal wash cycle, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. I'm going to go ahead and start the cycle. What I want to see is 110 volts. Now, water should be coming inside. Let me go over on this side. Now, see the 120 volts? So that solenoid should be open and allowing cold water in, but no cold water goes in. I see 120 some volts. I can actually feel the vibration of that solenoid, but it's not opening this valve. So cold water can't go in. And at some point, the circuitry will fail because there's no water going in, and then the system will shut itself down. So you can see 123 volts at that solenoid, and it should open that cold water valve. So now once we have the part, we want to go ahead and replace it. We're going to pop this control panel back so we can get access. Actually, we're going to pop it back and then lay it forward so we can get access to and replace our inlet valve. So you can take a putty knife or something and just work it until it pops. You can see it's giving me a little bit of leverage here. So I'm going to come over here, do the same. And what it does, it will allow you to take this unit off. So there's a back piece back here. I'll show it to you in a minute. And I'm actually releasing the spring and hitting this back here so it will let go of this panel. So notice this piece here goes into this back portion. They've made a cutout hole in the metal, and this spring goes in here. So you're using that putty knife to push this spring back, and then you can take your hand and pop this out of the indentation or this cutout hole, and then you do it on both sides and you can lay it forward. And now you have access to the valve. This is nice. I've seen some of the manufactured wash machines. This is a real pain, but this is very nice. Now let's go ahead and replace that valve. As always, as you're working on these type of devices, make sure at this point you are unplugged. You've got your power unplugged because this is 120 volts and it will kill you. So we're going to take these out. Now, in many cases, I would encourage you to also take a picture with your phone so you won't forget what connector goes on what. So this is my blue and white, my yellow and white. These came off very difficult for the first time. So if you find that they come off with a lot of effort, that's probably pretty normal. I'm using a 1/4 inch hex head to remove these. You can see it just kind of loosely, it's got a rubber grommet around this edge, and it just goes inside those holes that go into the fabric softener and the detergent trays, if that's the way your model is set up. And they just set inside there and screw down. So here is my new one, and it looks just like the old one. Hopefully the solenoid is working on this one, and we'll stick it in. Snug it, not too tight. Don't over snug those connectors. And again, I'm just going to plug the original ones up. That's why you want to take a picture, so if you forget, you'll have your photo to reflect on. There we go. We're ready to test. You can see a quick tour of the inside. You've got various switches that control the wash cycle. All of those plug into the modular circuit board. You don't have a lot. You've got a couple sensing, probably a vacuum sensor, some electronic sensors coming back from the wash tub, and the rest are just the selectors, a circuit board, and really some valves, and that's your wash machine. Of course, the transmission and the tub motor. Let's go ahead and put it back. So I'm going to start it by allowing those brackets to catch back here, and then snapping it in place. And that's it. Okay, I've hooked up my hose up to my cold water valve, which did not work before. I'm setting my front panel water temperature to cold, and just a general wash cycle that I would do, and I'm just going to leave it on normal, and I'm going to go ahead and start to see if it will start filling up the tray with the fabric softener and the detergent. I hear water running. Let's go take a look. We'll swing around here, and sure enough, we are rocking. So this was the problem, that possibly the solenoid. Do a resistive check on the solenoid and see if it was open. But when I replaced the cold water inlet valve, we're back to a wash machine again. So let's test the solenoid. This is the bad solenoid. You can see the resistance is overranged, and I'm in the mega ohms. So this has very high resistance, which means it's probably open. This one, which is possibly good, it's the one that takes care of fabric, and it's in the kilo ohms, which is probably okay. Now remember, these fail closed because you have city water pressure on this connector here. These always fail closed. If they don't fail closed, you're going to have water running into your tub and overflowing into your home. So these will always fail closed. The solenoid is the only way that these valves can open.